All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ready? The microphone, it's on?
Yeah.
It's on. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the iTalk meeting for February 11th to order. And before we get started, I'd like to ask our interpreter to walk through how to access our interpretation services for today's meeting. Please proceed.
Good morning. This is an announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, World, and select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., press the ellipsis, the three dots, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting, please check out the headsets from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de la reunión, por favor de pedir auriculares en la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Thank you. Gracias.
All right, thank you very much. Now the tribal acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region has historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systematic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. From our cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Digüeño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Now I'll ask the clerk to confirm that we have a quorum with a roll call for attendance. Clerk, please confirm.
Thank you, Chair. We do have a quorum this morning. I'd like to start though with David Santa-Stephen. He is participating with us remotely this morning. And so I do need to just confirm some information with him on the record to allow his remote participation. So David, if you could please confirm for us that you're able to keep your camera on during the duration of the meeting?
Yes, and it's on.
Wonderful. And can you please disclose anybody who is over the age of 18 that's in the room with you and what their relationship to you is?
No, I'm alone.
Awesome. And also, if you could just please state a general reason for your remote participation. You're not required to disclose any medical information.
Well, I just had hip replacement about a week ago, and so I'm resting at home. So sorry I'm not there.
That's all right. Thank you so much. And I'll go and since we do have remote participation, we'll need to do roll call votes for every item that requires a vote this morning. But we'll go ahead and do a roll call for attendance as well. For biology and environmental science, Lori Alquist is absent. For contractor construction, Jacqueline Appleton Dean. Here. For municipal public finance and budgeting, Mariam Babaki. Here. For private sector CEO, Sunny House. Here. For licensed civil traffic engineer, Frank Rivera.
Present.
For real estate, land economics, and right-of-way, David Santa-Stephen.
Kind of here.
And for licensed engineer Lima Saft.
Here.
Welcome. And that concludes the roll calls. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, you're all right. Thank you very much. Thank you to the welcome to the February 11th ITalk meeting, and I'd like to thank staff for their efforts to pull this meeting together. And a thank you to everyone on the phone and the web for taking time to join us today. So let's quickly talk about how this meeting will work. We will take in-person public comments, followed by virtual public comments. If you're a member of the public here in the room, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk. For those virtual, please continue to raise your virtual hands at the right time. I want to make sure that everyone knows that that public participation is possible in person and via Zoom as well. All right, then let's get started. First item is public comments, communications member comments. Clerk, are there any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have any public comments.
All right, so no virtual comments either?
We do not know.
All right, thank you. Are there any member comments? This is an item where we can speak on any item on the agenda, any item that is not on the agenda. And so any comments from our members? All right.
Just wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity, and this is my first meeting. Looking forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
All right, and it's for everyone's benefit. We'll go through introductions. This is Dr. Lima Saft, our newest member of the ITalk. So I'd like to thank the SANDAG's Chief Financial Officer, Dawn Batiste. If there are any agency updates, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Frank. Since we've just done the introduction of Lima, I would like for Danielle, Susan's newest team member, to introduce herself. She's stepping into a new role with the TransNet program.
Hi, happy to be here this morning. My name is Danielle Coachman. As of today, I guess it's like day one of being TransNet program manager. I got to sit through a little bit of your onboarding, Lima, knowing that I was transitioning into this role and really just listening. So excited to be here and looking forward to working with y'all.
All right. Thank you, Danielle. So Danielle's been with SANDAG for some time. She's been very instrumental in things like our regional plan revenues development with Susan's team. So there's already been, for many years, quite a bit of a nexus. She's also becoming quickly all of the innovative finance kind of expert in the agencies. So she and Michelle will work very, very closely together on all things revenue. And then she'll be taking on a lot more of the TransNet duties. So Jenny has moved back with her grants team to continue that support, which is really critical. So starting off with grants in the agency update, SANDAG board did approve the Smart Growth Incentive Program grants. They awarded $55 million, which is the largest award in the program's 17 years. The funds will support 36 projects through 14 cities and the county of San Diego. And we hope to have those grant agreements executed with all of the jurisdictions by the end of February. The 2025 regional plan, which was approved by the board in December, now has both federal and state government approval. This is, I think, the fastest we've ever had state approval on our regional plan, which is a really great thing. So that, continues the funding from the state and federal agencies to the region. And I think staff will be providing a presentation to ITalk in March. And then office updates, our reception at the SANDAG main office has moved down here to the boardroom lobby on the first floor. So there is no direct access anymore without a badge to our fourth floor. And then just a quick reminder that the SANDAG main office and customer service centers are going to be closed on Monday the 16th for President's Day. And then my favorite topic, yesterday we closed on the sale of bonds. We actually pulled a couple of maturities out that were not penciling out as well. So we issued less or took out less par, but had more savings than anticipated. We had a fabulous day in the market. In today's dollars, it was about 45 million in savings, gross over the life of the bonds, it was about $61.6 million in savings. And I think as I presented when I talked about the bonds before, it's kind of level over the time. So 2.7 million a year or something.
It's always great news to
We're
hear.
very excited to close that deal yesterday. And
All right.
that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Before we move on to the consent calendar, I wanted to ask Dr. Lima Saft if she wanted to provide a little bit of background to our members so that I know a lot of us have worked with you in the past with your career at Caltrans, but please give us a little bit more of your background for the benefit of everybody else. Thank you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much. Lima Saft. I have retired from Caltrans a little bit over a year ago after being there for 32 years. I worked in different departments and in different districts. I started with District 4 in Bay Area, then moved to San Diego for many, many years, then worked for a little bit in Orange County and graduated from my career from District 8, which is San Bernardino Riverside. My last assignment was a very excited role as an innovation manager, where I was able to introduce innovation in projects all the way from the inception, as opposed to being close to where you are in operations and trying to install some devices when money is not available anymore. So besides my career in Caltrans, I also teach at San Diego State University for the last 14 years, teaching transportation engineering classes for senior level students and graduate classes. My own education includes bachelor degree from San Diego State, master's degree in transportation engineering from San Diego State, and a PhD in transportation science from University of California, Irvine. I am an active member of WTS, which is the professional organization with the mission to advance women's careers throughout transportation industry, and just being among people who, and men and women in this organization who are there to lift you up, and the synergy of a very positive and supporting environment is very helpful. If any of you are interested for that, reach out. And other things that I like to do, but we need to get on with the agenda. Thank you.
Well, thank you. A very nice introduction, and welcome to the iTalk. We will welcome your comments and appreciate that after a long time, we're now full house. So thank you. It really helps us. On the consent calendar, we have items 3.1 to 3.6, and one approval and one recommendation. So do we have any member that wants to pull any item on the consent to discuss? Go ahead, Sunny.
I do have a 3.2. I have some questions.
Okay.
Budget item.
And anybody else wants to pull an item for discussion?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a question about 3.3.
3.3, okay. And then, all right, so let me take then, yes.
I just had minor questions on 3.4 and 3.6, but they're informational items, so.
Well, you know what, we can go through them quickly. So, all right, so then let's go with the first item, 3.1. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 11th, 2026?
I move.
A motion made by Sunny.
Second.
All right, and seconded by Jacqueline. Clerk, please do the roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair. Biology Environmental is absent. For Contractor Construction, Jacqueline Appleton Dean.
Yes.
For Municipal Public Finance and Budgeting, Marion Babaki.
Yes.
For Private Sector CEO, Sunny House.
Approve.
For Licensed Civil Traffic Engineer, Chair Rivera.
Approve.
For Real Estate, Land Economics Right of Way, David Santasteven.
Yes.
And for Licensed Engineer, Lima Saft.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Okay, and because he's attending virtually, do we have members? Henta Stevens, is there any item that you'd like to pull from the consent calendar for questions?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go now with item 3.2, the proposed FY 2027 ITALK annual operating budget.
Okay, my question, I have a couple of questions. There's a big jump in staff costs. I didn't see a full explanation of what that entails. There is basically 142,000 from 25 and 73,000 from 26. Can you explain a little bit more as to what does this cost? I mean, what does this entail? What are the details?
Thank you for the question. So when we started developing the budget and started comparison between the current fiscal year and the previous fiscal years, we realized that because of the
Closer.
because of the triennial performance audit that's going to happen, we have increased the staff salaries and benefits because of this functionality that will happen for FY 2027. And then also for ITALK meeting preparations and need. And the rest of the expenses are pretty much the same. We haven't changed anything significantly, but this is mainly for the fiscal audit and the triennial performance audit.
So I understand the triennial performance, that's a separate issue, and I have a question on that too. But are there more staff or is it just increases in budget?
It's just
In
increases
salary?
in budget. It's not more staff. And
It's an increase in the number of hours that staff will spend supporting the effort, this effort here. So we do anticipate that there will be an increase in the number of hours putting together the subcommittee meetings for the TransNet performance audit, meeting with the performance auditor, that whole effort. It's not necessarily that there's more staff, but there's more staff hours devoted to this effort in the coming year.
Okay. And it's been a lot of turnover and, people coming and going. Danielle's new. How many people are actually working for ITALK related items full-time versus part-time? Is there kind of I know Saba is there and I know Vanessa is there, but just give me an idea.
So no one works for ITALK full-time.
Okay.
So I can
So
tell you that.
everybody is. Okay.
The number of hours will grow next year because there are also folks from other areas, not just from my group, but we have staff from finance and accounting. We have staff from public affairs, government relations. So there are a number of different groups that contribute to the success and the ongoing efforts of ITALK.
Got it. Thanks for that clarification. Now, my question about the triennial budget is last year or last cycle, I know that we struggled with limitations in that budget. We wanted to do a lot more. I was on the subcommittee and we wanted to do several things. And the consultant told us that they were limited and they could not accomplish that. So we kind of tabled those. How do you determine this budget increase? Is it just arbitrarily you take a percentage? Because last cycle was 320,000. This cycle is 340. So just an increase of 20,000.
So the way that 340,000 was determined is that's the max capacity of the procurement that we went out with on the original cycle. And so there was a max capacity on that. And this is the last
year
audit on that contract.
Gotcha.
So when we go out for the next contract, we will be doing another ICE, but that's where that 340, that's the max amount under that procurement that we can do.
Okay, so there is no room for any amendments or anything else or extension. Just wondering.
No, not at this point. We would have to go out for another procurement.
Okay. All right. So we'll have to make sure our scope is within that budget. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Do we have any other member comments? And all right. So, Not on this one. No, so on 3.2, so the action here is to recommend that the TransNet Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, ITALC, is asked to recommend that the Board of Directors approve the proposed ITALC operating budget as part of the FY 2027 SANDAG program budget. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation? I'll make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Sunny. Clerk, please do the roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Before I take the vote, I did also just want to state for the record that there were no public comments on the meeting minutes nor on this item.
Thank you very much.
For biology environmental, I'm sorry, for biology environmental is absent. For contractor construction, Jacqueline Appleson Dean.
Recommend.
For municipal public finance and budgeting, Miriam Babaki.
Yes.
For private sector CEO, Sunny House.
Yes.
For licensed civil traffic engineer, Frank Rivera.
Approve.
For real estate land economics right of way, David Santasteven.
Approve.
And for licensed engineer, Lima Saft.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Thank you very much. Now we have item 3.3, the TransNet Regional Transportation Congestion Improvement Program proposed fee adjustment. Dr. Lima, you had a question on it.
Is there comments from public on that?
The comments.
Public comments?
No, that's not my question.
We do not have any public comments on the consent calendar at all.
All right, thank you.
I have a question about, I see that this is a 2% increase, kind of a minimum requirement. Is that amount per unit, like a standard amount for no matter what the size of the unit, or this is the minimum for any unit and it can go greater if it's like a huge house as opposed to a small apartment?
No, what happens is the minimum amount that each agency must collect for at least residential is a certain dollar amount that increases annually 2% or more based on a review of the construction cost index for the Los Angeles 20 city CCI. And so different agencies will do residential only or may do all the land uses and charge accordingly. So if SANDAG staff want to add any comments on that, Naomi?
No, I think you explained it perfectly. Thank you.
I've lived it. So, thank you. All right. Any other comments of our member?
Is there a list anywhere how much each city of the
Yes.
18 cities collect every year?
Yes, what happens is that each city will submit a letter to SANDAG saying that their program complies with the requirements, with the minimum requirements. And so whether they collect the minimum or more, that's then the letter attests to that fact, but every city has their impact fee programs available to the public for review.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is an informational item. Any other comments? Okay, same. Thank you, Naomi. All right, so now we'll go to 3.4. This is another informational item, the quarterly TransNet financial reports for the period ending December 31st, 2025, and other financial data. So we got Marcus. Go ahead, Marcus.
Hi.
Hey.
I just had a question on attachment 6. The first line is active transportation grant program. And then the first column says total revenue received, and it's $112 million. And then column C says awarded grant revenue, and it's 16 million. Is that for the total program from the inception?
Yeah, the awarded grant revenue is cumulative from inception. I think maybe the disconnect is for the active grant program. There's also a non-grant revenue component. So that's for the capital program. So the 16 million is actually just for the grant portion of the bike program.
Okay. Okay. I understand. Thanks. I just was like, that seems like a big differential.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Sunny.
So I noticed that the regional bikeway program is expenditure for I guess is that only Q2? It's not the entire year. Is the expenditure coming down? What's the budget for 26? I wasn't sure.
For attachment 6, grant expenditures should be the cumulative to date amount.
Well, I was looking at the annual chart, basically year by year expenditure, regional bikeway yearly expenditure chart.
Sunny, are you looking at the
might
next
be the-
item?
Oh, am I on the next one?
I
I'm
think you might be
sorry.
looking at the
I scrolled down too
quarterly
far.
update.
Hold that thought.
3.6?
We're on 3.5?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we're on 3.4. Stand
bad.
corrected. All right, we're all over the place this morning. Okay, so
But we do have staff here to answer that question when they come,
Okay.
when we get to it.
I see that. All right, anybody else have any comments on 3.4? This is an info item. If not, then thank you very much, Marcus. Now we'll go to 3.5, the overview of developments in the financial markets, the quarterly financial report as of December 31st, 2025. Dr. Dimasaf, you had a comment? No, you don't want to pull it, or Jacqueline? No? Okay, so no comments at all. I think we're good. Any public comments? No? All right, so this is for information. Thank you very much. Item 3.6, this is the TransNet Major Corridors and Regional Bikeway Program of Projects Quarterly Status Report. And so if we can have a SANDAG staff give us the presentation, please. Yeah.
Good morning. There is no presentation, but
Okay,
here for
all right.
answer any questions that.
So then, yeah, go ahead, Sunny.
Okay, now my turn. I apologize for jumping ahead. So maybe you can explain the bikeway expenditure program. What's the expenditure amount for 26 for FY 26? I only see 2 quarters here, but I was just curious. I know a lot of things are going to construction, which is fantastic to see after all these years. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Sunny. I can talk about the program in terms of the projects. So we had 7 projects in construction, 3 are in the bidding and advertising. So we'll have 10 projects in construction. I think as far as I've been here, that's the most number of projects that we have in construction. Our expenditures are obviously going to reflect more. I don't know the exact numbers programmatically, but I know that we should be spending more of that money because construction is where the big dollars are at.
Right. Okay, but you don't have the numbers or where
We don't have the numbers, but what we do know is that we are going to have at least 2 more projects going into construction this next quarter. So
Okay.
we're expecting, at least to match what we spent.
so logically you'll be spending more than FY 25
Yes,
because
we
of the
expect-
number of
but
construction.
At the same time, we're closing a couple of projects as well. So
Okay.
it's going to balance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I do have a question. Can you let me know maybe like the next project that will be completed, maybe the next 2, just so that we can stay aware of them? Of the 7 that are in construction.
So from the top of my head, and again, it all depends on
Yeah,
weather, and construction is a little hard to predict, but we're really close on border to Bayshore, Barrio Logan. We are close on border to Bayshore down in the South Bay, and hopefully this year Imperial Bikeway goes west to east on Imperial Avenue.
Okay.
From downtown.
Well, thank you. All right, so this item is for information. Thank you very much. Oh, Dr. Saft, go ahead.
Hi, just a question. The projects that have been advertised in November and December, when do you expect the contracts to be awarded?
Orange Avenue Bikeway is the first one that went out, and that one's pending execution. We're very close on that one. The next piece was Bayshore Bikeway, Barrio Logan Phase 2. And that is, it's in the queue. It's already been advertised. It's been awarded. Now we're just going, after the project's awarded, everyone's like, well, why don't you start construction? There's a lot of checks that we have to do in terms of making sure the contractor has their insurance and all these, actually executing the contracts. So Bayshore Bikeway, Barrio Logan Phase 2 is after that, and then Central Bikeway is the third one, which I can get you the exact dates on when we expect to be awarded, but it depends on whether we have to take it to the board or whether, how quickly the contractor provides the backup information needed.
All right, go ahead, Jacqueline.
Question on the construction cost indexes. I know, they go out to 2025 because that's when your data probably stops. But if you could look into the future, do you see any dip in that slope?
That's where we rely a lot on Naomi and our financial asset. I'd say like it's from a construction, what we're looking at is it's hard right now. Like it's all over the place, but I'd say we are seeing some flattening out, right? In general, and we're it's not as volatile, but there's certain areas, a lot's just going to be on what happens with tariffs and other things. So we're seeing flattening out, but there's certain areas like steel, so impacting our rail projects, timing of certain materials, specialized materials and signals and things like that are creating some issues. But in terms of overall oil price indexes and things, they're starting to level out and get more in that consistent. So we're targeting overall back in that 4% range versus these 10, 12, 13. But anything can change at any time right now.
Do you have any words of wisdom, Nancy?
I thought Clint did a great job. What I will say is that when we look at the construction cost index, we're seeing it flatten out quite aggressively through the current fiscal year. As we look at the impact of tariffs and trade relations, just as Clint highlighted, we are seeing differentials depending on the materials that dominate. But one of the things is SANDAG's construction cost index, and the way that we track it, we look at two particular measures. One is the construction cost index from ENR, specific to LA. The other one we look at is the PPI for government contracts on construction, federal government construction. Over the last couple of years, they've been quite volatile, partially because of just the scope of what they're measuring. But prior to COVID, they were kind of tracking more or less together. And what we're seeing again this year is that they're starting to converge around the same level as well. So we do anticipate, even with the uncertainty associated with tariffs, that there is less volatility as we look forward.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for, Dr. Lima, go ahead.
Two more questions. Sorry about the interruption, and I probably should have brought it up when I was asking the first question. And I mentioned it to Omar before when I heard this presentation or part of it. Can you speak to like a monitoring program for bikeways that may include like safety, how that has improved usage, maintenance of the new bikeways or existing bikeways? That's question number one.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Definitely monitoring is a big part of our program. Before we do our project, well, before we start construction on a project, we'll go out and do bike counts at a good prominent location. That'll set the baseline for the ridership before we do our project. Then we go through construction, and then within, I believe, 12 months after completing construction, or about 12 months after, we then perform the bike counts again to have a before and after. I can tell you, just looking from the data that I'm familiar with, generally the data shows very favorable. Like it's 3-4 times more usage. So we're really making sure that we're getting our value on the projects. Sorry, I'm trying to remember as far as maintenance, you mentioned maintenance. So SANDAG, as an agency, we're not the underlying owner of the majority of the projects that we work on. So we work as a permittee within the city or NCTD or MTS or wherever. So we get permission to do the work. And then once the project's complete, then we work on turning over that project to the appropriate jurisdiction for them to maintain in perpetuity.
All right, and then safety, just to see that hopefully the number of accidents, if there were any, has gone down.
Absolutely. Safety is top of mind for all of us. There's a lot of different ways that we track safety. There's some state databases called SWITTers, and there's some other resources that we use to kind of track that. Generally speaking, our projects are traffic calming. They're slowing down vehicles. You know, a lot of the projects that we're working on in the urban areas is where cars are cutting through on these parallel streets and trying, like Orange Avenue, instead of going out down El Cajon Boulevard, it gets congested. They'll go through Orange, which is more of a residential street. So the traffic calming measures kind of deters that. So we see less vehicles, we see less speeds, we see more pedestrians and more bikes. So all of that kind of inherently creates a safer atmosphere, but we do have some metrics that we can share with you if you'd like.
Thank you. All right, and the question number 2, the list of early action bikeways or the projects. I know that some of the cities have been working on speed reduction measures, meaning reducing the speed limits within some of this city streets. Is there a coordination between the plans to do bikeways with these measures? Because that would make sense to actually do the bike corridors in the areas where the speeds are being reduced.
Yeah, absolutely. The early action plan looks at a lot of different things. We looked at a regional network. We were looking at basically where we can have good connections between points of interest. Yes, the cities also have jurisdiction, especially with the state law, to kind of reduce some of the speed limits. We also coordinate with the various cities on their bike plans. So when they're doing bike plans, we want to make sure that our plan and their plans coordinate. So we have the opportunity to comment on each city and when they do their bike updates as well. A lot of the early action plan was programmed in 2013, but and a lot of it's been environmentally cleared at this point. So we've sort of kind of created that backbone. But as the cities create kind of more safer streets for biking, there's opportunities for them to connect to what we're doing. But our corridors generally go across multiple cities, and they've already kind of been pre-selected for routes that kind of check most of the boxes that we're trying to get for this program.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no further questions or comments, thank you very much on the item. Thank you. All right, so now we'll go on to reports, and this is item number 4, local city presentation. We've got Patrick Moneda, Principal Civil Engineer, City of Chula Vista. Proceed when you're ready.
Good morning. Good morning, members of ITALK, SANDAG staff, and members of the community. My name is Patrick Moneda, Principal Civil Engineer with the City of Chula Vista. With me virtually is Eddie Flores, Assistant Director of Engineering, Rosina Flores, Assistant Director of Engineering, as well as Claudia Block, Principal Management Analyst for the city. Today we have a presentation on the city's TransNet local street and road program in relation to the city's local CIP program. At the beginning of the 2025 RTIP programming, there was roughly $113 million for the region for the LS&R program. The city adopted the 2025 RTIP program of projects back in June of 2024. In April of 25, we adopted an amendment to reflect the 2026 program of projects. In general, for the current fiscal year, the city received approximately $9.3 million of TransNet revenue, which is about 8% of the regional LSI program budget. On this slide, we have the amount of TransNet funds that were programmed to the city's local CIP program over the last 10 years. In general, it's been trending upward, and with the last 3 fiscal years being in the low $9 million range in terms of TransNet funds. each year we average about 20 projects that receive TransNet funds. And the percent of TransNet in relation to the overall local CIP program varies anywhere from roughly 10% to up to a third of the city's CIP budget. A lot of that's based on if we have any major projects moving forward, like major bridge projects, grant funding. A lot of that will change the percentage of TransNet in relation to the overall CIP budget. And I apologize for the amount of information on this slide, but this is a snapshot of how the city of Chula Vista programs our TransNet funds into Project Track in the SANDAG database. The upper half of the spreadsheet is all of our congestion relief projects. The lower half are our maintenance projects that we typically will program TransNet funds into. We make sure that we program a minimum of 70% of TransNet funds annually towards congestion relief projects to meet that TransNet extension ordinance requirement. This pie chart here is a snapshot of when we created our fiscal year 26 CIP program. So at the beginning of the program, we're showing that about a third of our CIP is being funded by TransNet. Another third is being funded by gas tax. We have some highway bridge program funding for Heritage Road Bridge. Measure P is a local sales tax measure that was passed that its main focus is to work on rehabilitation of failed assets in the city. And then we have other facilities, funding projects, sewer projects, storm drain projects. Again, these pie charts and these percentages will change if the city receives grants mid-year. And so again, this is a dynamic percentage pie chart. So one of the main aspects or requirements for TransNet is the Regional Transportation Congestion Improvement Program requirements. So let me go to my notes here, make sure I don't miss anything. So as required by the TransNet Extension Ordinance, the minimum RTCIP fee requirement is a little over $3,000 per dwelling unit to fund projects along the regional arterial system. The city meets that requirement and exceeds it by a good portion, a good percentage. So we have 3 different development impact funds that collect fees at different rates. So we have the Western Transportation Development Impact Fee, which we call the Western TDIF, and we have a Bayfront Transportation Development Impact Fee, which we call the BIFDIF. Both of those qualify or count towards the RTCIP requirements for the TransNet ordinance. It's one of the ITALK members had asked the question of how it's calculated for Chula Vista. We have our calculations are based off of trips per day as well as the type of dwelling unit. So the amount that we collect varies and the quantity per year varies based on the amount of development that occurs for each year. If I were to throw an estimate as far as how much we collect for regional, for the Western TDIF and the BIFDIF, I would say it's roughly between $6,000 to $10,000 per dwelling unit. So it far exceeds it. And the reason why I have 2 slides up on the screen right now is these are 2 examples of projects that are receiving RTCIP funds. So on the left side is Bayshore Bikeway Segment 6A. It's the city applied for and received ATP funding from Cycle 6 to fund this project. There is a local match, which we are using our RTCIP funds to help cover that local match. So, and with some cost increases, we have programmed about 600,000 in RTCIP funds towards this project. On the right side of the screen is a project which is a Bay Boulevard and L Street sidewalk improvements. So again, this is a project that we could fund with TransNet, but we are using our TCIP funds to cover most, if not all, of the construction costs for this project. Bay Boulevard, which is parallel to Bayshore Bikeway and the Bayshore Bikeway serves Bay Boulevard, and as well as the Bay Boulevard and L Street sidewalk improvement projects are both along the regional arterial system. Other things to note with regards to the city's regional transportation congestion improvement program is that the city also has an eastern TDIF, so any development occurring east of the 805 freeway is on a separate I'd say fee schedule in terms of development impact fees. And in general, we've estimated that the cost per dwelling unit that was collected was upwards of 18,000 per year. And those projects fund more of the newer roadway projects on the east side of Chula Vista that are brand new roads, not improvements to existing roads. With the next slide here, we have a real brief overview of the city's pavement program. The current network pavement condition index for the city is 69 out of a high of 100, where a PCI of 100 would be like a brand new constructed roadway. The city manages 461 miles of centerline miles of roads, and at the beginning of the fiscal year, we have SB1 RMRA gas tax funding about $7 million worth of pavement work. TransNet covers about $6.5 million, and gas tax covers $1 million. As I mentioned earlier, in an earlier slide, the city also has the Measure P sales, the Measure P tax that the city collects towards failed assets. So 10 years ago, around 2016, the first phase of Measure P added about 20 million. Actually, it was more than maybe 23 or $25 million in Measure P funds towards our payment program. Measure P 2.0 is about to kick off. So that passed about, I think that was in 2024, Measure P 2.0 passed locally. And so we're estimating over 30 million would be added into our payment program specifically to fix our failed roadways in the city. So talking about challenges in terms of advancing our CIP program, getting projects designed, constructed, and open for the public. So there's a few challenges that the city's been receiving, which I believe would also be regional challenges in some cases. So in general, the first bullet is a construction cost escalation, consultant cost escalations, and the third bullet is public right-of-way accessibility guidelines, ADA costs towards our projects. There's a new PROAG that is nearing adoption and that is making ADA requirements a little bit more strict and harder to, I guess you could say, account for with our projects. So it's caused a significant increase in soft costs for design and right-of-way needs and things of that sort. More local to Chula Vista in particular, our city has adopted a project labor agreement, which basically unionized certain project thresholds, construction project-wise. So we had a little speed bump in terms of administering a bunch of our construction projects, specifically because of the project labor agreements. We're hoping to get past that and get our projects out into the street, hopefully within the next few months. And again, local, more specific to our department or our city, is that we've had a unprecedented amount of retirements and staffing shortages. Just fun fact, we've had about 4 or 5 staff members in our design team that went on maternity leave, all within a couple of months. So, you know, things that we can't really account for, but it's a challenge. And so what are some strategies that we've done to try to adjust to the challenges I mentioned earlier is, so our project delivery team is working on establishing a job order contract for a lot of our routine maintenance type projects. We also try to bundle a bunch of CIP projects with similar scopes so they can be administered under a single construction contract with one prime contractor. And another thing that we've been doing more so is when we create a new project, rather than funding the project completely at the project inception, we've only fund preliminary engineering for the first fiscal year. And then for the following fiscal years, once we've had the design move forward and get us a more accurate cost estimate, then we would follow up with a future fiscal year to fund the construction. So those are different ways that we've been trying to address the challenges that we had. And one thing to note that I may not have mentioned in the previous slide is that those challenges are not specific to TransNet. TransNet's one of our more favorite funding sources to work with. And so a lot less red tape to deal with in terms of using the TransNet funds. And so these are just more global challenges with our CIP program as a whole. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right. So, Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have it. No, we do not have any public comments on this item.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, members, do we have any comments for Patrick Moneda? Dr. Lima, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. Can we go back to slide number 4? I know it's that busy slide. Under maintenance, there were some items that at the first glance don't look like maintenance items, like traffic studies or signal upgrades or traffic monitoring program. What are the items that made them be included in under maintenance?
So there's 2 major categories that we can use when we program our projects. So it's either congestion relief or maintenance. Congestion relief is pretty specific in terms of what qualifies for congestion relief, which makes it a little bit more challenging to get to that 70% minimum threshold. Basically, any other TransNet related approved projects that don't fall under congestion relief fall under the maintenance category.
Dr. Saft, I think typically what happens is the congestion relief will be for a new traffic signal, whereas something on the maintenance side may be something that needs an upgrade. It's already existing, but it needs an upgrade. It's worn out or something like that. And so it's, but there is a SANDAG policy and a rule that talks about or gets into the distinction of each of the categories. And so when projects are proposed, the scope of work is identified, and then the process of determining whether it's congestion relief scope of work or a maintenance scope of work is determined. And then that's what sets it above that solid top half of the table or the lower half. But it has to do with the scope of work and complying with the Rule 21 of the policy.
Thank you. One more question about the per dwelling unit cost that you were mentioning. This is for new units, right? It's so you collect it when the development is under construction. Is that correct?
Correct.
Not every year you collect.
Not every year. It's with new development or redevelopment.
Okay. And then is there a number that shows how much is collected every year, basically to determine how many new units are being constructed in the city of Chula Vista?
So our development services team tracks all of those information as far as what the engineering department sees, and I can provide a rough estimate. So when we're dealing with the amount of RTCIP revenue per year, we're seeing anywhere from $100,000 in RTCIP funds up to $1 million. Just depends on the amount of development that's occurred per year.
I think, Patrick, maybe I heard wrong or you misspoke, but on the Eastern TDIF, so east of 805, it's $18,000 per residential unit, not per year.
Correct.
Okay.
Per residential unit.
Per resident, and that's just on the transportation side because there's parks, public facilities, and everything else. Generally, what happens in the middle part of Chula Vista, where it's redevelopment, you're going to get credit for the land use that's there today. And so any increase in traffic is what you're paying that impact fee for. If it's less intensive than was existing there before, the traffic impacts have already been mitigated. So we're getting a small increment in the middle between I-5 and 805. On the west of 5, where it's the bayfront, for example, the hotel, 1,600 rooms, it's equivalent to 1,600 homes. But the rate is calculated for the improvements needed on the regional arterial system from the trolley corridor, Blue Line trolley corridor, west to the bay, because that's their area of benefit. So each one has its own study area, a sub-regional one, whereas maybe City of San Diego will have many areas where they look at, but a small city may only have one fee for the entire city limits. And so it kind of works interestingly that way, but I think it manages to get the proportional impact fee calculated more accurately for the benefit of those that are getting the improvements in the area preceding or in the adjacent area of the improvements planned.
Thank you.
Okay,
You
go ahead,
just
Mayor.
mentioned something, but so a room, and this has been a while since I've been
Yes.
back in this. I used to do this, but a room in a hotel, is it treated from an impact fee as same as they say a residential home, a single family home?
Yes, the SANDAG, it's actually the SANDAG Not So Brief Traffic Guide has all the trip generation rates on there, and a hotel room is 10 trips per room. And that's coincidentally the same as a single family home. An apartment or a condo would be less than that, but it's interesting that a hotel room is roughly equivalent to a home.
So it's really basis of a trip generation, really.
It's trip generation, yeah, and a lot of the cities in the county agreed to use that. And so that's kind of what makes it interesting, that it all kind of works together in the region. But every city can adopt their own impact fee program.
Thank you. I'll have more questions, but Jackie was first. So.
Okay, go ahead, Jacqueline.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. So I just had a few questions on the challenges and then the strategies. And the challenges I think you mentioned are kind of universal. You know, we're seeing them not only in our region, but across the country. And so my question is, and then you mentioned some of the strategies. So question one is, out of these strategies, I don't know if you have the data so far, but which are the most successful?
As of now, we've been successful with the project bundling. We've been doing that probably for like the last 10 years that I've been aware of, where We'll have 2 pavement projects being advertised together to expedite the construction process. The job order contract that was mentioned, that's something that we're still trying to get established. I believe some other agencies already have one in place. So it has been successful for them, which is why we are going in that path for certain maintenance type recurring annual projects that we have. And then what was the third?
Oh, the phased project funding.
Phased, yes, and that's something, again, we have limited TransNet funds. A lot of times we use TransNet funds to fund our preliminary engineering for a lot of our smaller projects. And so rather than funding, say, a $1 million project with TransNet funds on day one, that we're pretty confident that we're not going to go to construction within that first year. We'll just fund about 200,000. It frees up the other 800,000 for that fiscal year for other needs that would use TransNet. So it's still to be seen as far as how successful we are with the job order contracts, but the other 2 strategies have been very helpful for our city.
Great. And then I'm sure there's mechanisms to go out and find more information, especially, within the region. But what about further out? Do you meet with people or other states and see what they're doing, or?
We haven't reached out beyond our region, but it's definitely something that we are willing to try to be creative, if possible, to help us with our program.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Sure.
Okay, Miriam?
And that says, have you guys, as far as like a cost control, is design build in the picture at all?
Design build is in the picture for certain types of projects, more so on the like building assets, fire stations, parks, recreation center, renovations, things of that sort. For our roadway projects, we haven't used design build as much, but it is something that we have considered in the past.
Okay. And just a couple of things, I'm just curious. The Measure P you mentioned, and is that for Chula Vista, is that just infrastructure, or is it general sales tax for a whole lot of other uses as well?
The original intent for Measure P, when it first got adopted or voted in 10 years ago, was for failed assets citywide. With Measure P 2.0, it's opened up a little bit in terms of being able to allow us to fund new infrastructure that is missing. So like missing sidewalk previously wasn't considered a failed asset. It was just a missing asset. So Measure P 2.0 allows us to use this funding source towards installation of new sidewalk.
So it is still infrastructure oriented rather than operational.
Not just in the public right of way, but also parks and libraries, things of that sort. It's not used to fund operational expenses or soft costs like operations costs of staff, but it's hard assets, things of that sort.
Great. And one more question, you mentioned the ADA requirements are getting even more strict. I can't see how that's possible. Like, can you give me a couple examples?
Correct. So with ProWAG, there's new guidelines that are moving forward that essentially say that, there's a term that was used in previous ADA documents, like the term is called to the maximum extent feasible. And that term's no longer valid anymore. Like, for instance, we used to say that, oh, this is the best ADA ramp we can fit because of right-of-way constraints. ProWAG now tells us right-of-way is no longer a concern because you can purchase right-of-way from the private properties to give us the full asset, the full ADA facility. So those are certain things that we're dealing with. Another thing that recently that we're dealing with is clear path. So previously, I can't recall exactly what the clear path along a pedestrian walkway is, but you know, there was a certain minimum width that is allowable for obstructions along a sidewalk. And so that minimum width has increased per PROAG guidance. And so we're seeing that more so with our pavement projects where we're looking at our obstructions like traffic signal poles, push button poles, any utilities that might be within the curb return. Those are now being scrutinized with our ADA ramp designs. So sometimes we might need to incorporate utility relocations. Sometimes we might need to relocate some of our traffic signal equipment to make sure that we have that clear path.
Got it. Thank you. That was a great explanation. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to see if our member David Santos-Steven, do you have any comments?
No, I do not.
All right, thank you. Sunny.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you, Patrick, and your colleagues for being here online. Appreciate it. In slide 3, you had a list of projects that were shown. I calculated, you know, being an engineer, 207 projects, not the one before that. 207 projects and $78 million coming from TransNet, which has helped to basically deliver, you know, better transportation system for your residents and for your stakeholders. I know you mentioned your challenges that you know, again, is pretty universal. But specifically, I really would like to know, what can we do better as SANDAG or TransNet or ITALK to help the city to deliver, you know, more seamlessly and maybe reduce your pain a little bit in processes, whatever it is, you know, and it's impressive. So thank you for doing your share to be able to take advantage of this good source of money. So.
As I mentioned earlier, TransNet is actually one of our more favored funding sources to work with. I would say that the 70% threshold may be a challenge for some agencies more than others. For Chula Vista in particular, it's not that big of a hurdle for us in terms of our CIP program and being able to find alternative funding sources to cover certain projects. For maybe smaller agencies, the 70% threshold becomes a bigger challenge.
So can you explain that for everyone that may not understand what that means?
So it'd be a little bit hard for me to explain it because I haven't worked at one of those smaller
I'll
agencies.
give an example. Let me give an example, Patrick. Like City of Solana Beach or Del Mar, they don't get sufficient TransNet dollars a year to build like a traffic signal, brand new traffic signal. But when they do, that's congestion relief. But then you get another year where it's like, okay, we're going to do a pavement maintenance project. Well, it's not going to be on the 70% side. And what cities, maybe like National City, what they'll do is they'll say, well, we're going to go in the commercial loan program with SANDAG, so we can go and issue a pavement program in 1 year, get up front 4 or 5 years of our allocation, and then we're not going to receive anything more for the next couple of years because we're paying back the pavement program that we were able to put out in 1 year. And we'll see you again in 4 or 5 years for the next round. So every city kind of looks at it a little bit different. And that's the discussion that we would have at the CTAC meetings, that if you propose something, it affects the large cities differently than the smaller cities, because the large cities have that ability to make decisions of how to use different funds. And that's the main thing that I think Chula Vista's presentation is, on the pie chart, there's many different funding sources. And for instance, even the development impact fees, you have identified projects, but you have a choice, TransNet or development impact fees. And you can do one decision one year and the next year it's something else. But the smaller cities, the amount of money generated versus the construction cost dollars they need, that really becomes a struggle. And the 70-30, I believe, is over the life of the program, the 40-year TransNet program. But with Chula Vista, we're always, every year, if we stay ahead of the 70%, we know we're going to meet that goal. But the smaller cities, they may say, you know what, for the next couple of years, we're going to be on the maintenance side, but then we got to get back towards the congestion relief. So it's just how each city proposes their capital program or their POP program, and SANDAG tracking it along the way to make sure that they're staying where they need to be per the TransNet ordinance. So it's a lot of thought, a lot of input that goes on, and these are public hearings when they're amending their programs. So a lot of thought goes into that. So thank you, Patrick. I know the leveraging is the key here, that the TransNet to get projects out on the street. And as we keep hearing that the construction costs keep increasing, so the sooner we can get projects out, the less red tape up front for us to hold back projects to get out on the street, the sooner the public enjoys the benefits of the improvements that have been planned. And on the Clear Path one, I know, for instance, I'm on an HOA board. We send out letters to our residents every year. Keep the sidewalks clear, and the vertical height is 80 inches. So any tree branches or anything that goes over the sidewalk, you have to clear that. But we take it upon ourselves in our homeowners association to educate the public that, you know, you have to maintain the sidewalk clear of, and it's typically vegetation, or people sometimes will park their cars blocking the sidewalk, you know, in their driveway. And so we stay on top of that.
So for Chula Vista, 70-30 rule is okay, but you're saying for a smaller city, I wasn't quite sure.
Correct. So for Chula Vista, we're fine managing the 70% requirement.
Right.
Other agencies may have a little bit more of a challenge.
So what would be a recommendation or a suggestion?
I've heard the idea from my previous directors that the 70% requirement may go away, or there's talks about it going away. I'm not sure exactly where that is at this point, but I know that that was in discussion.
Is there an update from SANDAG?
So this is in regards to the ordinance amendment that would be required, right?
Rule.
So we are still having discussions on, you'll recall that there were a number of ordinance amendments that went through the subcommittee, right? So we're still having discussions about how and when we would move those forward. There's no update. So we would expect this year to continue the same process as has been in the past, where those would have to come in with an exception, a request for an exception.
Thank you, Patrick, for the recommendation. Appreciate your update.
All right, thank you very much. And this is that was an informational item. All right, that concludes that item. Now, item 5 is the authorization to utilize AB 3090 financing for the San Dieguito Lagoon Double Track Project. And there's a recommendation on that one. Go ahead, Michelle.
All right, and we do have a little mini slideshow as per requested by the chair to kind of give a little bit more explanation to this process. It is quite an interesting process. We don't do it very often, but I'm here to discuss the AB 3090 process in order to continue moving forward with the San Dieguito Lagoon Double Track Project. And just as a quick overview, so this project, it's currently finalizing the design phase, and we are ready to move into construction within the next year. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about this project in the last couple months. And right now it is 2 phases per the state's viewpoint, but we will be combining those 2 phases. So I want to kind of give a quick update on how the funds are split. So we currently have roughly 9 different fund sources on this project in order to bring it to fruition in the construction phase. So as you can see, there are 2 phases that we originally had this laid out for, but the team did an analysis, and by combining the 2 phases into one construction contract, it's able to save time, save money. So we are moving forward with both phases going together. And I wanted to kind of break out the different types of funds here. So we have the Trade Corridor Enhancement or TSEP funds, which are state funds. We have TransNet Major Corridor funds. So this is a TransNet funded project. It is eligible under the ordinance. We have Federal Transit Agency or FTA funds. There are funds coming from NCTD on this project. And then we also have Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program or TARCP funds. We have State Transportation Improvement or STIP funds. We also have a infra grant. It's a federal infra grant that we got awarded for this. And then we also are using Senate Bill 125 TIRCP funds as well. And then we did identify a little bit of a funding gap in the current fiscal annual budget. So we are proposing future federal funds in order to cover that gap. So as you can see here, we have phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2, it is large. As you can see, the project will be building 1.7 miles of double track. It will be doing a bridge. It will be building a platform along with some other work. We do have Angela Anderson here, the PM, if you have questions related specifically to the project. And currently we are estimating that it will cost a total of $350 million. So how does this affect cash flow? So there was a question on if we do this AB 3090. So what the AB 3090 is stating is that the STIP funds that we had proposed as part of the 2024 STIP, and I'm going to go to the next slide real quick. We proposed to have them in the FY 2026 fiscal year because we knew we were going to be ready to go out with this project. Those other fund sources that you saw on the previous slide, they're all related. So we have to have the funds go together. So some of the funds have already been allocated, which means they've already been requested from the state. So those funds are ready to go. We do have another set of funds, the TARCP funds that have to go with phase 2. Those have to be allocated by June, and then the project has to be awarded by December. So unfortunately, when we submitted our 2024 STIP request, CTC staff came back and said, we don't have budget. We are pushing these funds out to 2029, which means we would not be able to go out and request these funds until 2029 after we want to award the project. So when we found that out, we reached out, of course, and we asked, hey, can you maybe advance the funds? Is there another project that's not going to go forward? Can we request the funds early? Unfortunately, due to budget constraints at the time, they couldn't accommodate this. So our next step is to do an AB 3090. So this is from an assembly bill that was approved back in the 90s. And what it states is the local agency can propose to use their local funds to keep this project going. And then once the state funds become available, we would get reimbursed. So we call that like advanced construction. So we do that with a lot of our large projects with our major corridor funding, like the I-5, we've done that, where we advance TransNet. And then once those outside federal or state funds become available, we request those funds and then we return the TransNet back to the program. So it's, once we started going down this route, we reviewed our TransNet cash flow and we said, hey, would we be able to use these funds in those fiscal years that are needed? And we reached out back to CTC staff, said, yes, we'd like to move forward with this. They said, great. We can refund you over 3 years because they can't refund the entire 62 million in one fiscal year. So what they said, we can do about 20 million a year. So going back to the cash flow slide, this is just an example. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but as an example, we would front TransNet funds. So if you can see the green line, that would be our AC fund line. So we would front some TransNet and say 27, 28, and then the STIP construction fund line would start coming in about fiscal year 29, and your repayment would be 20 million, 29, 21 million and 30 and 21 million and 31. So they would start paying for the project and we can then return the funds back to the program. So it just depends on the cash flow needs. We may not need the full 62 up front. We just want to make sure that that's funds available so this project can move forward. And so what are our next steps? So today we're coming to you to request a recommendation on utilizing this AB 3090 request. And after today, we will go forward to the Transportation Committee, and then we will go forward to the board. Once the board approves the request, we would then submit all the paperwork to CTC and Caltrans, and then we would be on their May agenda. And it's considered a STIP amendment because we're kind of amending how the STIP is the cash flow for it. So it has to be a notice on the May agenda to kind of say, hey, this is what's coming up. And then for the June amendment, the June agenda, we would ask for approval. Once we get that approval, we can then allocate the TIRCP funds that are associated with that phase of work. And then staff can move forward with putting the project out to bid. And then we would then hopefully award by the end of the calendar year. And with that, I am here for questions.
Okay, I'm going to ask if member Census Stephen, if he has any comments.
I do not.
Do we have any member public comments?
Yes, we do have public comment on this item. Dustin Fuller.
Hello, committee. Thanks for having me. My name is Dustin Fuller. I'm the supervising environmental planner for the Del Mar Fairgrounds, aka 22nd District Agricultural Association. First, I'd like to say thank you for volunteering your time. I served on this committee for 9 illustrious years. I know it's a lot, and thank you very much for volunteering. I'm here speaking on behalf of the 22nd DAA. We are in full support of this project, this request for funding. We've been working with SANDAG since 2009 on this. I didn't think I'd ever see it in my duration at the fairgrounds, but yeah, so close. We'd hoped to be in construction, I think, last year. I can't express how excited my board is. Reduction in trips in and around the facility, reduction in parking in and around the facility, reduce our carbon footprint. So yeah, we're very much in support of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
That concludes the public comments.
Right, thank you. Member comments?
I have a question.
Miriam.
By the way, this is obviously a great project, and I do get caught in the traffic. My sister lives in there, and the whole month of June to July, we don't visit her. We just like stay out. My question is about AB 3090. I mean, this is obviously a great step and this is a pro of going ahead with this project. Is there a con? Is there okay, what's the other side?
The con is that we would have to utilize TransNet now and then get paid back later where, if maybe something were to come up that TransNet would be available, but just using the TransNet now would be the only con I can think of at this point.
So that's not a con exactly. I mean, this is something that will be available and it's just being advanced.
It's being advanced. So the funds that we're currently using now, say another project were to come up,
okay,
it wouldn't be available for that project now. It would be available for that project later. I know there was some discussion on what if the state can't pay us back. However, once we turn it into an AB 3090, this project is the first priority to be funded through the STIP program. So it is a first priority for the state. So being paid back is, at this point, not really a risk.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Jacqueline, do you have a comment?
So you answered the first one, thank you. And the second one, kind of piggybacking on Miriam's question. So no projects are being delayed because this funding is?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so it's just basically taking $62 million off the table for use for 3 years?
It depends. So they'll start paying us back in 29. The project will go out to construction, hopefully 27. So roughly probably 2 years.
Okay.
But we may not need that full 62 in those 2 years. We just want to make sure it's available in case.
Well,
yeah.
Nobody else can use it then.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Lima.
Thank you. Do you know how often the AB 3090 is being evoked?
It is not being used very often. The last time it was used in the state was in 2019, and that was from Riverside. The last time SANDAG has done this, it was back in 2000. I'm looking at Dawn. It's been a while. 2016? No.
I don't remember us
Okay.
ever using 3090.
We did it on an I-5 project. Yeah, I found it.
But was that Caltrans invoking it?
Yes, Caltrans.
Yeah, so
SANDAG
it was not a
technically didn't do
SANDAG
it.
agreement with our local dollars. That was the state then fronting.
Yeah, so that would have been the last time this region would have done it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Sunny.
So what are the projects right now in as far as the phases? Are they in design already? Are they done?
Here she comes.
Hi, Angela.
Hi, Sunny. Good to see you.
Same here.
I am Angela Anderson. I'm the project manager for this project. The project is in the final design phase. We were like just Dustin alluded to earlier, we were advancing the project, and then because of funding challenges, we delayed the projects. So this is where we at today. We are getting ready to have, we call it a bid ready package in early April. And once we get the state approval for the funding sources from the state, we're advertising either late June or early July.
Okay. So as far as your engineer's estimate, are you pretty confident that you're going to be within this budget that, what if the bids come in higher? How does SANDAG take care of that?
So if the bids do come in higher, we do have some federal funding. So in the slide, we do have some future federal funding that we have set aside. And in case that happens, we have seen that with the bike program. So we are setting some aside in the future years in case that happens.
So you won't need that money up front, but in the future, you're banking on a federal fund. What kind of a guarantee is there that that's actually available?
It would be our formula federal funds. So they do come in annually. Yeah.
Okay. And as far as your FTA funds are concerned, are there any conditions to that? How does that need to be used first, or are they phased? How is that going to work out?
Those are probably, besides TransNet, one of our more flexible funds. So that what we would do is we would spend the state funds first because those have really tight lines for expenditure. And then the federal FTA funds would come in after that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Jacqueline.
Just one more question. So you had two examples of other agencies, Riverside County maybe, and Caltrans. So has the state paid them back?
Yes. So Riverside's in their final year of being paid back.
All right, that's good.
What's good about it is we only have to go back to 1992 when the Assembly Bill was passed. So I'm sure shortly thereafter, we probably had our first request. And so, all right. So if there's no other member comments, is there a motion to recommend item number 5?
Yes, a motion to.
Jacqueline makes the motion. Is there a second to?
I second.
And Miriam makes a second. Roll call vote, please, clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Biology Environmental is absent. For contractor construction, Jacqueline Appleton Dean.
Recommend.
For municipal public finance and budgeting, Mariam Babaki.
Yes.
For private sector CEO, Sunny House.
Yes.
For licensed civil traffic engineer, Chair Rivera.
Approve.
For real estate, land economics right of way, David Santisteven.
Approve.
And for licensed engineer, Lima Saft.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
All right, thank you very much. So now item 6 is info item, revised FY 2026 and FY 2027, the fiscal year 2031 TransNet program and TransNet related issues. Go ahead, Michelle.
All right. So this item is our annual sales tax revenue update. We do have Naomi here if you have questions with special interest in economy. So today we're providing an update on our short-term sales tax revenue estimates for the current and upcoming fiscal years. And we're actually here to provide some good news for you today that affects TransNet in the near term and in the short term 5 years. In December of each year, SANDAG revises its TransNet revenue forecast to reflect the latest data on sales tax collection and the evolving economic conditions. SANDAG is updating its expectations for the current fiscal year 2026 and the short-term forecast for 2027 through 2031 based on current market conditions. So here, this slide provides an overview of TransNet actuals going back to FY 2019. So the bars that are in blue are the actual revenues collected through FY 2025. The gray bars you can see in 25, it's the forward bar, and the 26 through 31, it's going to be that bar behind the color. These are the board approved revenue estimates when we took it last year in February 2025. And then the pink bars represent the updated forecast that we're bringing to you today. So as you can see, we are assuming that we will see about a $6.84 million gain. Oh, no, I'm sorry. In 2025, we saw a $6.84 million gain. And for 2026, I'm clicking. There we go. We are assuming about $14.7 million of gain in revenues. Okay. I'm just going to go through these since this is, okay. So the board approved was $2.69 billion over the short term. The revenue that we are bringing forward as the revise 26 as well as the full short term is up about 2.7 to 2.79, and that's up about 91 million over that short term time period. So this slide provides you with an overall TransNet revenue by the buckets. So I know we kind of talk about the buckets and the cash flow. So those bottom two are the 2% off the top, that kind of bluish and yellowish color. That's your 2%. And then the purple represents the major corridor program. The green represents our 8.1%, or the money set aside for operations for the BRT and rail, so the transit operations. The yellowish orange is the transit system improvements, or TSI. Those are the funds that goes straight to the transit agencies. That's the 16%. And then the local streets improvements, the 29% is that top number there. So the difference between last year's and this year's projections by fiscal year is shown at the top there. So your 14.7, and I has mentioned earlier, and then it grows a little bit through 2030. So in your report, we include the TDA updated revenues as well. So TDA revenues usually grow similar to how TransNet revenue grows, and TDA also supports the TransNet program of projects. So as you can see here, we're also looking at an increase to TDA revenues, as well as TDA claims for SANDAG, MTS, and NCTD and CTSA. I do want to highlight the 188,000 in the parentheses for SANDAG admin. This is just an adjustment. We had set aside some money for the TDA triennial review. However, that was concluded in FY 2025. So we revised FY 26 revenue to reflect what we normally have without the TDA audit. And then the TransNet updated revenues we have here. So you're off the tops. You're going to see an additional roughly $300,000. Independent Oversight Committee, ITOC, see a slight increase as you saw in your operating budget. And then for the major programs as shown in that previous slide, we have the differences here. So after the off the tops, those major programs will see an increase of $14 million. So what are our next steps? After today, we will present this to Transportation Committee. We will then go to the board and request approval, and then we will send out the updated figures to transit agencies and to the locals so that they can use these figures as part of their FY 27 annual budget submittals and development. And with that, we are here to answer any questions.
Okay, Clerk, are there any public comments?
We do not have any public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. Are there any member comments? Sunny?
So what's the level of confidence? Is this like an estimate or, I mean, you're doing a lot of actions based on, and I assume isn't, you don't have a crystal ball, so it's an estimate. But what's the level of confidence in that?
So far, she's coming up, I can say so far we have seen revenues coming in higher to date. So that has kind of driven our need to update the current fiscal year, but I will have Naomi.
Sorry, I apologize. I was assuming you were talking about the overall TransNet budget, including the state and federal funds. So in terms of sales tax revenue, it's been, if we look at it from a month-to-month basis, it's been fairly volatile. However, on an annual basis, we continue to track well over 2% from last year. It makes sense that the revenue will grow for a couple of reasons, and it is a conservative forecast. One is that we're seeing inflation higher in San Diego than in other areas. Key components of our sales tax revenue, like gas prices, are now increasing in cost rather than having disinflation for the last 2 years. We also think that in terms of what supports consumer or sales taxes, consumer health, and we see employment in San Diego region being fairly stable. We're not seeing a significant rise in unemployment claims. We haven't seen WARN notices, at least in the last couple of months. So all of that speaks to a consumer base that's appearing to be resilient. So that's what gives us confidence. And then the only other piece that I'll add is that our revenue forecast for sales tax in terms of how retail spending increases is significantly conservative compared to the vendors that we apply this to.
Okay. So that projection, though, extends beyond another election, an administrative maybe change or not, I don't know. But, again, so even on the future, how much do you bank on that future income?
So this year, typically our process is to adjust the sales tax forecast only for the first 5 years. And then the remaining 15 years, we use whatever the vendor consensus is. This year, we actually adjusted that downward. So we are, we made short-term adjustments, and we're also saying that the longer-term projection is not as optimistic as what our vendors are doing. So that's part of what gives me a little bit more confidence about a budgeting process that takes in a longer time horizon, even with all the volatility and uncertainty in policy.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Member Senator Stephen, do you have any comments?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other member comments? No? All right, well, this item is for information, so thank you, Michelle and Naomi. Okay, so then that concludes this item, and I think we're complete with our agenda. So if there are no other comments, then we're adjourned at 11:10 a.m. Thank you.
That's a tap.
I know you gotta.